All right, welcome back to This Week in Media-ocrity, where we give you the best and the worst in the media. I'm your host, Joel Foster, and the state of our union is so wrong. All right, it seemed like deja vu this week as once again, the memo dominated the news. The memo. Always all you ever hear about is the memo, always with the memo. I'm not going to talk about the memo again. You can watch it last week if you want to know all about the memo, or just turn on Fox News right now. There's about an 86% chance they're talking about the memo at this moment, even if you're watching a repeat of the show next week and probably even next month. So let's instead move on to more exciting stuff. The president delivered his first State of the Union address on Tuesday, even though it wasn't really his first State of the Union address. If you remember, last year, Trump delivered his address to Congress around this time. That was the one day where everyone called him presidential. Remember that? It basically was a State of the Union. He just called it something different because I don't know why. I think he just likes to play with reality. Either way, we'll start out and have some fun with the address. If you didn't see it, there wasn't anything shocking in there. It was pretty standard Trump, just with a few guest stars, such as the parents of a teenage girl who was killed by an MS-13 member who Trump spotlighted like they just won a car. There was the usual immigration stuff, a little bragging here, a little MAGA there, you get it. But lots of times it was difficult to hear anything because Trump was so excited by his speech that he couldn't stop applauding himself. And you knew he was clapping for himself because his was by far the loudest. Let's take a look. No whammies, no whammies, no whammies. All right, this further fueled suspicions that Trump actually thinks he's been on a game show for the past year. But it was infectious. The guy was on a roll. Here was Trump an hour into the speech. Trump was flying high, getting standing ovations, and delivering full sentences. I've never seen him so competent. But while he was gaining praise from everyone around him, there was only one person he cared about pleasing, his daddy. And you know Trump always pleases his daddy. Let's see how he pleased his daddy.
And just as I promised the American people from this podium 11 months ago, we enacted the biggest tax cuts and reforms in American history.
That's my boy. Aw, it's sweet when father and son reconnect, right? Also, that was completely not true at all. It wasn't the largest tax cut of all time. That would be Reagan in 1984, but what are you gonna do, look it up? Come on, we're clapping and having fun here. Don't ruin it with facts. Sure, there were some awkward moments, like when Trump introduced the newest member of the Supreme Court and the winner of the most likely to be in a stock photo award, Neil Gorsuch. When he was introduced, Gorsuch looked like he wanted to be anywhere else, maybe like an LL Bean or Crate and Barrel. It also looked like he just Supreme Courted in his robe. Let's take a look.
Working with the Senate, we are appointing judges who will interpret the Constitution as written, including a great new Supreme Court justice and more circuit court judges than any new administration in the history of our country.
Don't bring me into this. I'm good. Can we just clap more? That was fun, right? Can you quit the Supreme Court? Or it took close to an hour before Trump even got into any policy. There was about 15 minutes of trotting out guest stars and 45 minutes of bragging. It was like watching a telethon hosted by Kanye West, minus the melanin, of course. But when he finally did get to his policy ideas, they didn't exactly come out smooth.
We also believe that patients with terminal conditions, terminal illness, should have access to experimental treatment immediately that could potentially save their lives. People who are terminally ill should not have to go from country to country to seek a cure. I want to give them a chance right here at home. It's time for Congress to give these wonderful, incredible Americans the right to try.
Bet you thought he was going to say the right to health care, right? No health care, but they can try. Even Paul Ryan was confused about that one. The right to try? It sounds like a Tony Robbins seminar. Or maybe it's a buddy cop movie starring Joe Arpaio and Neil Gorsuch. You have the right to try. I'd watch it. I don't know about you, but I watched the State of the Union alone. Turns out not too many people at Dave & Buster's are into that kind of stuff. But I found a solution. Why watch the State of the Union depressed and alone when you can watch it depressed and with Mike Cernovich?
We have endured floods and fires and storms. But through it all, we have seen the beauty of America's soul. We climb it. If there's a frontier, we cross it.
Thrilling television. Wait until you see 40 minutes in when Cernovich pees in a coffee can. That might have been the biggest waste of the internet I've ever seen. If we ever run out of internet, remember that moment. All right, let's move into the reactions of the State of the Union. Remember how Trump wanted to please his daddy from earlier? Well, Donnie Jr. wants to do the same, and it seems like he's running out of synonyms for great to describe his father. Here he is on Hannity talking about the spiritual power of Trump's speech.
President Trump's first State of the Union address, his son, Donald Trump Jr., you were in the gallery.
I was.
I got to be, you're not feeling well. You've had this bad flu that everybody had. You feeling better?
We keep working. Doesn't matter.
You're a Trump. You keep working, right?
Speech
tonight. This is the speech that conservatives have wanted to hear since Reagan. More people independently telling me that than any other comment I got tonight.
Listen, I think it was phenomenal. I mean, and you could see it. Not just from the Republicans. I mean, I got a leg workout just standing up every 5 seconds but watching the Democrats was actually where I noticed it, because you could see them all wanting to stand, Sean. You could see them all almost looking around like, we almost have to stand for this, but the derangement is real.
No,
right?
Real.
They have to do.
He's talking like the Holy Spirit just got into them, compelling them to stand up. Oh, Lord, I can't help myself. I need to clap and dance. Why do we act like this doesn't happen every year? The opposing party sits. Occasionally, they stand up and clap. But it's always a shock to people. Donald Jr. is probably the type that's surprised every time he watches The Sixth Sense. And his father is trying to be uniting. Here's Trump just one day earlier.
I noticed Chuck Schumer yesterday with fake tears. I'm going to ask him who is his acting coach, because I know him very well. I don't see him as a crier. If he is, he's a different man. There's about a 5% chance that it was real, but I think they were fake tears.
No, I didn't take him as a crier. I took him as a real man. Schumer, more like boo-hoomer, am I right? Make sure you write that down. Yes, I am the president. Thanks for asking. What a uniter. All right, Jason Chaffetz also complained about the Democrats not standing, as if he didn't do the same thing 2 years ago.
Things I would expect. They're not going to cheer for the repeal of the individual mandate to Obamacare. We can't expect that. But I would think for those stories and for things that are to the common good of America, that they would be standing for some of those.
The flag, In God We Trust, protecting the border, helping our troops, recognizing ordinary Americans who went through extraordinary circumstances. And these Democrats have the gall to sit on their hands and, as Luis Gutierrez talked about, just resist. They're resisting America. They're resisting apple pie.
They're resisting apple pie? Well, for the members of Congress, I could kind of see why. Trump always gets into that pie. Rascal. So was it true that Democratic members of Congress were sitting on their hands during God and the flag and the apple pie and the cop that saved a baby? Well, it's a bit more complicated than that. They did stand for Ryan Holetz, the Albuquerque cop who adopted the baby, so that wasn't true. But what about God? Did the Democrats sit on their hands for the King of Kings? Laura Ingraham says so, and so does the guy with a band of MAGA bodyguards behind him.
Crowd at the State of the Union, the Democrats are all sitting on their hands. What triggered them the most, and what drove them right over the edge?
Well, they didn't want to hear any success. So every time that Donald Trump pointed to a specific statistic, a fact about how things had changed in the last 12 months, you saw no reaction from the Democrats.
Mega gang, 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 mega gang. You know, for a guy who's not known for exercise, Trump demands a lot of standing. Why doesn't he just tell them to sit and then reverse it, pull a Bugs Bunny on them? We spend an awful lot of, but okay, never mind. Let's look into what he really said before the nation under God line so we can figure it out for ourselves.
We all share the same home, the same heart, the same destiny, and the same great American flag.
The flag. Flag. Get it? We're all the same. Except for Colin Kaepernick, who's a very terrible person, and Roger Goodell, who probably can't even throw a football. So, as you can see, the statement was pretty loaded. It wasn't just like he gave props to God and the Democrats were like, nope. He was clearly trying to incite them by saying the flag. Okay, we've looked at what conservative media had to say. What about the other side of the aisle? Surely they must have taken Trump to task for his half-baked policies, his failure to mention climate change or address that 4 of his campaign staffers pleaded guilty to the FBI, right?
So last night's State of the Union started out a little differently from the beginning, when the First Lady broke tradition and arrived separately from him.
She did not. Some of the Democrats are bringing their guests to the State of the Union.
Oh, you think they should bring her?
Why wouldn't you bring Stormy Daniels?
Trump, remember at the last debate, brought some of Bill Clinton's accusers.
But she was never a victim, though.
But you don't bring her as a victim. You just bring her
as his hooker?
She wasn't a hooker. She did not get paid to have sex with him.
Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, even worse. She did it for free?
It was just heartbreaking last night. Did anybody watch President Cheeto's State of the Union address? Or was it just the mistake of the Union address? Oh my goddess, he just got up there and rambled about how great he was and how great he's made America and how, did you know he said America like 80 times?
So that's part of the reason why we have an angry whopper as our president. As easy as it is to criticize the conservatives fawning over Trump, the liberals ain't doing too much either. Maybe you can stop talking about all the trivial crap and focus on the actual policy that's ruining the country. Just an idea. But one guy on the left who seemed to get it right was Massachusetts Representative Joe Kennedy III, the only congressman who has to stay inside during ribbon cuttings. His skin is very delicate. Kennedy hit all the right notes, calling Trump's approach to governing as a zero-sum game, the least fun kind of game. Surely it would be tough to find any faults in his speech, right?
Oh my gosh, that's terrible. Russia.
Deep in our democracy. An all-out
This guy's a laughingstock.
On environmental protection. A Justice Department.
This is such a joke. I'm like, this is just a joke.
Move over, Mystery Science Theater. I think we just found the kings of commentary. This is a joke. I'm like, this is a joke. Yeah, you are like that. But it wasn't just InfoWars that made hilarious jokes about Kennedy's speech. Twitter exploded with comments about Kennedy's shiny lips, with some claiming that he was drooling. Kennedy says it was due to an over-application of lip gloss, but on the other hand, who cares? Everyone had a hot take on Kennedy, even non-humans. But the soon-to-be king robots weren't concerned with Kennedy's speech, they were more concerned with what was behind the speech. Let's see what that could be.
Too bad for him. No one is praising what he had to say, and he was left utterly humiliated when people saw what was right behind him. President Donald Trump did an amazing job, giving his first State of the Union address. The only people who didn't like what he had to say were the hardliners who wouldn't agree with anything he said no matter what, even if it was aligned 100% with their liberal narrative.
Can they program that thing to stay on topic? Even Trump's robot supporters have no attention span. So what was the thing in the background that they never got to? Well, there was a car with its hood open. Yeah, not the best visual, I'll admit, especially when your uncle is best known for drunkenly driving his mistress into a river. But you know, we all make mistakes. We all drive our mistresses into the river, if you know what I mean. So did any humans have anything to say about Kennedy?
There. Now, the next person you have here, of course, is Sloppy Joe. And right out the gates, you gotta ask him to please clean that shit off his face. I don't know if that's from George Soros or what that is doing there, but he definitely needed to clean that off.
So it looks like artificial intelligence is catching up with us. As much as I love people, I, for one, welcome our new robot overlords. So to sum things up, State of the Union addresses are pointless. Yeah, I just talked about it for 15 minutes and you just watched it for 15, so I don't know who lost out more. These things are the same every year. The governing party stands up and applauds for half the time. The opposition sits and frowns. We all act like it's such an aberration that our government doesn't get along, then we all drink ourselves to sleep. It did nothing to bring our parties together, did nothing to tell us where the country's headed. It didn't even give us a preview of Black Panther. So I'd say the State of the Union is pretty weak. All right, that's all the time I got for you today. I'll see you next time, same place, same time, on This Week in Media-ocrity. Have a great weekend.